Folks ask me all the time for insurance proposals for different places, and Florida tends to be one of the hardest. And so, why is insurance so hard in Florida? I thought I would just give you open the curtain a little bit, show you what happens on the back end, what we're looking at, and why it can be hard. So, we're looking at an overhead right now of a property that I just brought up as an example. I think it's a solid example of the type of property that I'm often looking at and finding insurance for. So let's look at what we have going here. First of all, let's talk about the state of Florida. Obviously, a great state to live in, really nice in the winter, a little hot in the summer, has ocean, has beaches, has all those kinds of things. So great state. But when it comes to insurance, there's a lot going on here. So if we just look at the overhead view, some of the things are obvious, right? We know that hurricanes come through Florida, particularly in the middle 2000s. We saw quite a few hurricanes come right through Florida, do a ton of damage. We saw insurance companies leave Florida. Insurance companies will go to states, and then if they feel like they're not going to make money in states, or they're, just getting killed there, they're going to leave that state, right? So a lot of insurance companies avoid Florida because of hurricanes. So that's number one. We know that. That's probably not new information. The second reason that insurance companies are leaving Florida now is liability laws. So the laws of the state make it very easy for lawyers to win large settlements in court cases. The liability laws in Florida are different than almost any other country or any other state in the United States. And so insurance companies get killed in liability situations, and lawyers make a whole bunch of money off of those situations. So insurance companies are, that's one thing you may not have known about this state, is that liability laws are there. So that's what we're starting with. That's the framework to begin from. So let's dig in a little bit closer to this particular property and see what we're looking at. Let's say someone gave me a call and said, hey, I'm thinking about purchasing Casa San Pablo apartments in Daytona Beach, Florida. What would the insurance look like? So I say, okay, well, it's Florida. We already know those basic frameworks. Now we're seeing that it is in Daytona Beach. And if we zoom in a little bit more to this property itself, we're going to see that it is pretty coastal. So it's not on the barrier island, but it is right inside of the barrier island. And so insurance companies in general, even if they say yes to Florida, a lot of them say we will offer insurance in Florida if it is not within 10 miles of the coast. And this is true in other states as well. If something is coastal, it's often going to have less opportunity from insurance companies. If I am looking in North Carolina, where I have tons of great insurance companies, if it is within 10 miles of the coast, I lose a whole group of those companies, because while they offer coverage in North Carolina, they do not offer coastal coverage in North Carolina. So I've lost that. So not only are we in Florida here, but we're clearly coastal. Okay, so that brought us down to a more limited number. And I think what you're seeing in my description here is that, we start with a large group of insurance company potential. All these different insurance companies that I could go to, literally hundreds of insurance companies that I could go to at the very beginning. But when we say Florida, we lose 60% of them. Now we only have 40% of companies left. When I say coastal, we lose another 30%. So we're already down to 10% of insurance companies before we even looked at the property. So let's look quickly. Well, let's zoom into the property here and you can see what we've got. So we've got a pretty nice apartment complex here. 64 units, 4-story building. Let me give you a quick look at it by going to this here. So we've got really, it's looking in good shape, built in 1987. So it's a little bit older. So that's going to also limit what, we got 10% of insurance companies. Now it's a little bit older. So they're going to find some concerns there. If we have updates, if we had major renovations, this place looks like it's definitely been renovated. It looks like it's in good shape. And so we would want to ask some of those questions. But now we've got a slightly older building. Maybe that takes us from 10% of insurance companies down to, 4 or 5%. You can see that our options are getting smaller and smaller. And, experience tells us that as the options get smaller, the price gets higher and the coverage gets lower. So that is what's happening here for sure. And so we look at this property, we say 4 stories. Some insurance companies want to have 3 stories or fewer. They get concerned about higher stories. Although, if we have sprinklers inside this property, that would definitely help. If we have 2 means of egress from each floor, which I'm sure we probably do, most buildings do, that would probably help. The fact that there's no balconies is definitely going to help. So the one last element of this property that would make even more of an issue is it's also a retirement community. It's billed as a retirement community. And so I would need to ask the investor, okay, so does this mean we're offering assisted living? What are the services we're offering? Are we offering medical services, things of that nature? I need to understand more about it because there's an additional exposure of it being a retirement community and potentially an assisted living community. I want to know more about that. So these are all the things that are going on the back end of an insurance scenario, particularly in Florida. If we look at one of the things I pull up when I'm looking at things is something called the agent risk view. And we can give a quick risk assessment of this property. So we can see that earthquake and wildfire, well, it gets an A. There isn't very much earthquake in Florida, not very much wildfire. Fire protection around there. Is there a fire station close? Things of that nature. It's a B. Things like tornado, wind, here, but sinkholes. There's a lot of sinkholes in Florida. Starting to get a D there, and then flood risk, storm surge, and wind zone. These are the things that are major factors, and this property is right on the coast, so you're going to get an F there. So when I'm looking at a property, that is basically what I figure out. Okay, now I've got this scenario. I know the scenario that I have. Let's go and start looking for options. I hope this helped to give you a sense of what we're looking at when we're looking at any property across the country. We're starting with 100% of our insurance companies. And as we dig in to what it is, the number of companies and options we have gets smaller by state, by type of property, by use of property. Is it vacant or does it have folks in it? Is it an apartment or is it an office building? Those are the kinds of things that make our options smaller and zoom us in on who the best options are going to be. And once we understand the property well, then we're going to go out to the companies and find the best option for you. Let me know if you have any questions. More than happy to help. As always, hope this was informational. We will talk to you later.